This is the tutorial for lesson 16, and this tutorial will go over how to set up a new dimension style within DraftSight. So the shortcut to get to dimension styles is D, enter, the letter D, enter. And you can see options, drafting styles, and we're in the dimension tab right here. If you can't remember D, enter, or you forget, you can also go to tools and go to options. And then here are all kinds of things up here. These are the active drafting styles, but we are working with the dimensions, which is down here. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and X out of this. D, enter is what I use, and this already puts us in the dimension setting right here. Okay. As you can see, when we are here, the standard dimension style is the only one that is here, which we can make changes to the standard dimension style. The standard dimension style is what you've been seeing all along, but we're going to make a much better, much more useful dimension style. It's going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the standard dimension style looks like currently, and it should be, this should be no surprise because you've been seeing it now for weeks. And that is the standard dimension style that you see right there. So we're going to go ahead and make changes, and we'll show you what the new one looks like when we're all set done. So here we go. D, enter, and we're going to go ahead and make a new one. The CAD recommends to call it standard 1, but we're going to call ours class style. It's based on the standard dimension, meaning it's all the same right now, and we can apply it to all dimensions. We can change this. Maybe we only want to apply these changes to angular dimensions, or to linear dimensions, or to radiuses, or what have you. But we're going to want to have the option to apply this to all dimensions, so we'll leave that, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. And now you can see I have two options: standard, which has the little yellow arrow next to it, and the little yellow arrow means activate. And then we have class style, and class style is what we're going to make all these changes to with these little plus signs down here. So we're going to go ahead and go through and make the necessary changes, and all of these changes are coming out of the book that I've been using all semester long. So the first change that we need to go to is linear dimension. I'm going to go ahead and expand linear dimension. We are going to keep it on decimal. Again, if you were doing a floor plan or something, you may want to change it to architectural or fractional or what have you. We're going to keep ours on decimal. Instead of 4 zeros, we're going to make ours 3 zeros. And I believe that is the only change that we need to make as far as the book goes. Decimal separator is going to be a period. That's obviously what we want. Scale factor we'll keep at 1. And as you can see, there's really nothing else to worry about. Zeros, you can see that currently you can hide the leading zeros, or you can have them there. And you can see there's a little preview up here. It's really tiny, but right now with hide leading zeros, it just says 0.90. And if I uncheck this, it will say 0.90. And then this one will hide trailing zeros, like this one says 4.500. And if I check that box, that will now just say 4.5 instead of 4.500. We're going to go ahead and leave those unchecked, and that is now done. Okay. After linear dimension, we are going to go ahead and go to the line tab, and we're going to go to dimension line settings. And under dimension line settings, we're going to keep all of these on by block. However, we do need to change this offset instead of 0.38. This is how far we're going to offset the dimension line, how far the dimension line is going to come off of the object line. We're going to change that from 0.38 to 0.5. Go ahead and hit tab. And once I hit tab, it changes it. I just put in the 5. It put the other 2 zeros there. We're not going to hide either of the dimension lines, so that is pretty much done. If you can see, when I check hide dimension line 1, you can see that it will actually hide up here in the preview, and we would not want to do that. So, but that is an option to check that. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this, and now I'm going to go to the extension line settings. Again, we're going to keep these on by block, and then the offset for the extension line settings looks like it is 0.0625, which is a 1/16 of an inch. All that means is the extension line is a 1/16 of an inch. There's a 1/16 of an inch gap between the object line and the extension line, so we're going to leave that. The distance past the dimension line, they want it to be 1/8 of an inch. So instead of 0.18, we'll put 0.125. And I'll go ahead and hit tab. And again, we do not want to hide either one of these. We don't want to make them fixed length. So those are the necessary changes that we need to make there. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse that. And we're now done with dimension line settings and extension line settings. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse line. After line, we need to go to arrows. So here's arrows up here. We are going to use closed filled arrows. If I was doing a floor plan or something like that, I would probably use architectural tick. That's a very common one when you're doing floor plans or architectural work. There's also a bunch of other options as well, but for us, we're going to use closed filled. And the arrow size, according to the book, they want us to use 0.125, which is an eighth of an inch. So that's really all we can do with arrows right there. Keep it on closed filled and an eighth of an inch. I'll go ahead and collapse that. And then we need to go to radial diameter dimension. This is one of the more important ones. Right here is the center mark display. As you can see up here in the little circle, it is on center mark because there's only the little plus or center mark in the center of that circle. So this is how you change it. As you can see, when I click on none, that little center mark will go away. When I click on center line, it turns it into a center line. And the book is calling for us to keep it on center line. And for the size, they want us to change it to 0.120. 0.120. So almost an eighth of an inch, just a little bit less. And that's really all we need to do there. So I'm going to collapse center mark display. Radius dimension jog, that's going to be at an angle of 45 degrees. So if I were to click on the radius button and click on the radius of that circle, it would put a leader line with an angle of 45 degrees, which is fine. That's what we want. So I can go ahead and collapse radial diameter dimension. And then I need to go to angular dimension. And when I go to angular dimension settings, we want to keep this on decimal degrees. So anytime we're putting in an angle, we obviously want to use degrees. If we're using radians or something different, which will probably be pretty rare, unless you're working for a company that uses that. So we're going to keep that on decimal degrees. Currently, we're going to the whole degree, but if you need to go to the nearest tenth or hundredth, you can make that change. And again, you can hide either the leading zeros in front of the decimal point or the trailing zeros if need be, but not necessary for us. Then we're going to go to arc length symbols, before dimension text or above dimension text. And the book wants us to use before dimension text, so we don't need to make any changes there. So I'm done with angular dimension now. Getting close to done here. Now we need to go to the text options. And we've got 3 text options here. We'll go to text settings first. And we are going to change standard to Comic Sans. Okay, and I already have Comic Sans as an option here. You may as well. If you don't, I'm going to show you how to do it by putting in a different one, since I already have Comic Sans. So you just click on this box right here, and I'm going to go ahead and type in new, and I'm going to call, well, before I do that, I'm going to just pick a new one. I'll call it Century Gothic. I'm going to put Century Gothic on mine just because I already have Comic Sans. So I'm going to click new, and I'm going to type in Century Gothic. So now this says Century Gothic. I change this to Century Gothic, and that's really the only change that I need to make right there. But now I have that option right there. So I can go ahead and go back to Dimension, and now I should have Comic Sans as well as Century Gothic as my option. I'm going to use Comic Sans. I want you to use Comic Sans as well. So Comic Sans. And the only other change you need to make here is your height. And for height, they want it to be an eighth of an inch, or 0.125. So again, make sure you have Comic Sans. Make sure you put the height at 1/8 of an inch. Go ahead and collapse text settings, and we'll go to text position. We want it to be centered both horizontally and vertically. And then the dimension we want it offsetted from the dimension line is 0.060. So 0.060. Those are done. And finally, text alignment. And we want to align that horizontally, so no need to make a change there. And we are done with text. Tolerance is not something you need to worry about at this time. We talked about text. We talked about radial diameter and dimension. We talked about line, linear dimension. Dual dimension is not something we need to worry about. And then arrows and angular dimension we went over. The only one we haven't gone over is fit, and I'm going to go over that one right now. We have geometry. So, and this is kind of options that you may want to change at some point. You don't need to do it for these drawings, but you may encounter drawings where you do want to change these things. So when space is limited, what do you want it to do? Automatic is what we want for these. but you may want to make changes in here later on. Dimension text, if there's not enough space for the dimension, what do you want to do with the number? You can move it above without a leader or with a leader, or put it next to the dimension line. So you may want to make that change. This one is a big one right here, dimension scale. Ours is currently scaled with the drawing at 1:1, but you may want to scale the dimension according to the sheet. So if you're drawing on a very large piece of paper, it would scale the dimensions accordingly if you check that option right there, which may be good when you're drawing really large drawings. And then there's some additional options that that I've never really used these right here, but this one is probably the most important one, is the dimension scale right there. So that is our new class style. The last thing that I'm going to do, as you can see, standard currently has the yellow arrow next to it. So I'm going to keep it on class style right here, and I'm going to go to activate. So now class style has the yellow arrow next to it, and so that is the active dimension style. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply and click OK. And now the first thing I'm going to do is click on linear dimension, and we should see a totally different dimension style as far as this one versus this one. So this is standard over here, and this is class style. So pretty easy to distinguish between those, but that should now help you finish all of lesson 16. So I'll see you again for lesson 16, showing you how to complete some of the tutorials.